Naomi, Ruth, and Boaz were faithful to God in their relationships one with another. And it was born out of their relationship, their decisions to care for each other and love. It was based on the need of someone that they loved, and so they responded, each in their care for the other. The story is about being in tune in our relationships and responding with kindness and responding with love and with commitment and with devotion based on the relationship that we have with a person. God's protection is also very evident in the story over Naomi, who lost everything and returned home empty-handed. God sees us in our desperation. It doesn't matter how deep you think you have gone and sunk in this life. God responds with love and care. But notice that God uses Boaz in this situation. God doesn't pop into the scene in some spirit form and decide to fix everything. It's through a person who has kindness and love and faithfulness and has integrity and sees need and decides to respond to it. Do you realize today that that's our role in the world? Some people around us may be in such need, and God is allowing us to see that need so that we will respond to that need and we will be Christ in that situation. We will be the blessing of God and the healing of God and the protection of God in people's lives in that situation. Don't ever think that you are alone in your trial and your tribulation. Don't ever think that God is not right there with you, wanting to respond and care for you in your time of need. We struggle so much because there are so many things that are grabbing our attention at every turn. It can be a phone call. It can just be something that drags us back to something that happened last week or last month or last year, and all of a sudden we're in this funk in our minds. It's why we are called upon to let this mind, which is in Christ Jesus, to be in our minds. The kingdom reality will be such a potent force and real in our presence that it doesn't matter what thing rises around us, what circumstance rises around us, we know that God has us in the shelter of His hands and will always provide and protect us. God sees us in our desperation, and He is always protecting you. You may say, look at my situation. I don't feel protected. I feel vulnerable. It's not about how we feel. It's not about our moods. It's not about our feelings. It's about understanding the truth of God's provision. Life, from the very first day people were born on the planet, we've been struggling, haven't we? Since sin happened and broke our world, every single person rises to meet the day. And we're told in the original creation story that the curse upon Adam was that he was going to have to work by the sweat of his brow. And there probably isn't a single day that you get up out of bed and not realize, I have to get up and go to work today. We're reminded constantly, just with circumstances, life is not perfect. But the point I want to illustrate here is that for how many thousands of years of humanity have people just continued to get up, go to sleep, and get back up the next day, and go to sleep and get back up the next day? Why should we worry? Why be so downcast, O my soul, David says. You believe in God. Put your trust in God. But God has been faithful to my father and your mother and my mother and their parents and grandparents, and for generations and generations of time, as people are born and people die and people rise and they fall, the faithfulness of God will never let us down. Never let us down. God is always by us, protecting us. God's protection for Ruth, who had no prospects as a penniless foreign woman. Can you think of some reason God would respond to Ruth except out of His love and His care for her need? Can't think of a reason. He just cared for an insignificant woman who was unknown in Israel. a foreigner. And back in Bible days, being a part of the Israeli nation, God's chosen people, there were all kinds of laws that discriminated against anybody and everybody that wasn't Jewish. It was quite an amazing thing that Ruth was so accepted as a woman.